Hello, it's Matthew David, the Minister of Allowing. In this moment, I'm going to surrender my will. That's really all about the persona that takes thought for all of its concerns and needs. You know, I was reflecting on the greatest wealth I had ever made and looking at the lives of a couple of my friends who made similar or more instant type rocket ship to the moon wealth. And I noticed that most of them lost everything or reached a bottom point, what they call the bottom picture, right before the sudden wealth emerged. So what does that feel like? Well, that feels like facing the terror of losing all of the things that we need to survive in this world. That could be a relationship, could be your money, that could be your source of income, that could be your health. When we lose these things, it is an ego death. It is the tyrant of human volition to go out there and take what it thinks belongs to itself. It's the ego acting out of the will of harmony, of life, of God, that brings us to this place where we lose all. We become self-indulgent. That means we just focus on ourselves, our needs, constantly focusing on our needs. It's the exact opposite of the commandment. Take no thought for your life, or what you shall eat or drink. Does not your heavenly Father know you have need of these things? Of course. But we don't trust him. Not all the time. Not until that moment comes where we stand in the face of our oppressor, the one who is holding us down. There's only one thing you can ever lose, and it's the one thing your oppressor always comes after. The only thing you can ever lose is your freedom. Well, what does money represent? It represents your freedom for comfort and luxury, to afford the health of this physical body, to feed your little ones, to put a house over your head. That's the freedom to experience peace in your heart, to experience joy in your soul. But the attack will come when you'll be rocked off your kilt and your frequency will drop and you won't know what happened. One day life was amazing, the next day you're in hell. That's what it seems like. I remember this so many times, and I'm sure you do as well. You know, when I found out I was too sick to work in 2008, because I didn't know it then, but I had Lyme disease. I remember thinking, what happened? I was just working out like a champ, and life was doing so well, and I just got married, and I have a son, and what happened? There I was at the pinnacle of my previous success, you know, the crest of the last bull run, in the cycle of Matthew David's life. And now things were looking very bearish. If you don't know finance, I'm talking about peaks and valleys. Bull cycle means you're at the strong end. The flow of good, of power, of joy, success. These things are just robust in this space. The valley, well, the valley is where the magic happens. However, the valley is a picture of a barren field that challenges all that you hold to be true. It's the death of the former persona. It's the butterfly emerging. It's the rise of the phoenix. Because the old you no longer fits the mold of the plans that God has in store for you in the new beginning that is happening in your life right now. You know, I watched this video last night talking about all the symbology of everything playing out, and I'll tell you some of the symbology. You know, corona virus. Okay, so the crown, okay, the spread of the crown, the spread of the glory. You see, what happens within you happens in your outer world as well. So you've reached this place where you are entering the crown of glory. To wear the crown of glory, well, to do so, you see, look at the other symbology. Q is the number 17. 17 is a new beginning. You have to have a new beginning. The sun will reflect its rays off the waves of thought once again. But your old identity no longer fits. The way things used to be, look at your politicians, it'll never be the same. Of course not. So then the darkness comes in ignorance, and it suggests to you that the new normal, get this, will be a loss of freedom. And that loss of freedom is the feeling space where prosperity slows down to the degree that you feel a sense of loss of freedom. Because inherently opposite to this is the feeling of freedom produces the continuity of expression of self. Money, my own natural energy yield, acronym, money. Expressing oneself in a state of carefree surrender freedom. That's what it feels like. A state of being free of the cares of this world, surrendering to that space equals freedom. That's the formula for it. To the degree that you feel free in your heart, you are prospering in this moment. And the old persona stares at you in the eye with all of its appearance of lack. And it says, well, you just look at the reality. We have been stripped of our freedoms. They have taken away our rights. They are bringing in a cashless society. They're going to microchip us. They're going to vaccinate us. And they are going to punish us. And this is coming to you from everywhere out there. And isn't it an amazing phenomenon when you see billions of people on the planet, billions, and a few thousand condensed down to a few hundred that are in control of all of these suggestions that appear to be everywhere, and almighty pervasive. And at the top of the pyramid, you have one principality, the kingdom of darkness. Isn't that something? That all of the reflection off the waves of the current in life, the sun reflecting its goodness, and you have one cloud casting a shadow over the water. And it seems that all hope is gone. Well, what do we know to be true about this? The sun never ceased shining. Its rays are in search of their reflection back to the sun. That's God's love, translated, never stopped pouring forth divine love, seeking reflection through your face back to the Father. So you could reflect divine love back to the Father. That never stopped. So what's the deal with this cloud? Well, clouds are ignorance. Ignorance passing through. See, ignorance passes through. And we look at our troubles in life in just this way. Ignorance is passing through. Does the sun forever remain held captive by a cloud? No. In fact, in just a transitory moment, that cloud will be passed along, just like every other threat that came at you throughout the course of your entire life. Now, while you were standing there cold in the wind as the pressures of life came at you, and you looked and didn't see the sun because of the cloud of ignorance that was standing in your direct sight, your mortal body shivered. You shook under the trembling of the loss of that freedom that you once remembered, where you could just gaze at the sun and it was a perfect moment because all of your needs in that moment were being met. And now you're standing under the cloud of ignorance, and you may be even freezing in the rain because the storm has come. Now the waves are blowing in faster and the vibration is increasing along the shoreline and the temperature is dropping rapidly. You may say, I was in the day of summer just a moment ago. My life was extraordinary. And now I'm in what appears to be the fall right before a winter. My limbs shake. My heart is beating faster. My hands are cold to the touch. I must protect myself. I must put up layers because I can't let that cold wind touch me or I will perish. It's a primitive biological response to a natural phenomenon that happens in fractals throughout all time and space. You see, in the world of trading and investing, they have these fractal patterns and the Fibonacci code, and they have all of these different ways to look at any given moment and see patterns and come to a probable analysis of where they are in relation to what is to come next. And there's only one premise that this is even remotely accurate. It's because history echoes. His story echoes. It's all God's story. And you will hear many echoes. And these are your cue as to where you are in relation to what is yet to come. They talk about this also in German New Medicine, Dr. Hammer's work, when conflicts come in our life on these tracks, they call them, in patterns. Say, half your age, you had the same emotional upset that you're feeling right now in this moment. All that is the coherence that these fractalized patterns, his story is echoing. What is his story? Well, it's the Bible stories. It's the Gnostic gospel messages. It's even the music that you hear. The way that you feel. Is always associated with the memory in your body, which is the memory stick, where you can overlay the charts of your life and see fractalizing patterns that are playing out. Now, before we begin, and I take you into these patterns to clean up the mess and show you how the Christ within you is the power that overcame the world, and how to occupy that power so that you can have an experience of transformation now, not next week, not in 3 years from now, now. You see, time is an illusion. All things are happening in the space of now, and they're playing out through a linear time through the 5 material senses. Nice visual, huh? What I'm talking about is that visual is what I think of human clock time, by the way. That was so predictable. Guy's driving his Harley down the street. The girl that was just walking the dog is walking right behind the truck, heading toward the opposite direction. He's coming up the street, and he's just coasting downhill, but when he catches a glimpse of her, he doesn't know what age she is or whatever. He just sees her from behind. He looks directly at her, and he revs the Harley. That's primitive right there. That's the reptilian brain scanning the room, saying, who should I eat, who should I kill, and who should I reproduce with? That's all it does. It scans the room, the environment, and continuously says, who should I eat, who should I kill, And who should I reproduce with? And so he sees a potential mate on the horizon, hopefully not the dog, and he revs the engine. No offense to dogs, I'm just saying the human mind's condition these days is at an all-time epidemic of insanity. So I wouldn't put it past the opinions of men that have made the collective human mind these days. Now, what does that reptilian have to do with any of this, you say? Well, you see, that reptilian is scanning every moment without the perfect 20/20 vision. That reptile is looking only at what is stimulating the five senses, a snapshot picture of reasoning. And it's making a snap decision. Who should I eat? Who should I kill? And who should I sleep with? This is very important for you to understand. Here's an example of how this is not accurate. That man driving down this direction sees this person walking this dog. Now, if he were to look and all of a sudden it was a man wearing female clothing, etc., that happened to have a body similar to a female, and he's not into males, and he looks at this face, could it be a sudden change of the course of how his animal magnetism is spreading its energy frequency out from within itself? Of course, it may inhibit that and shut it down immediately, because that's not what his reptile wants. In fact, that's threatening to the reptile, so it instantly runs the other direction. The reptile is nothing more than a reactionary agent of survival for the illusion of self. And since the vast majority of those are bound to the illusion of self, this transformation has been quite the unpleasant experience in their lives. They haven't seen this before in some cases, because life was nothing but the sunny day. They've never been through a drought, a famine, a war in their own land. They've never been through tyranny, totalitarianism, etc. Those fractals, they just happen to play out as an echo, and these emerging beings from the Father Divine, living through the spell of the five senses, are staring at that cloud, shivering, wondering if it's about to snow. And you see, that's all the reptile senses, is that this is really cold, and it starts to throw its trigger off of survival and bring fears into the play. So we bring in the overriding factor of consciousness. And we will go into these holographic snapshots, these picture frame realities that are still carrying an emotional charge. Because that emotional charge is what brings about the magnetic field that draws in the particles of matter to create through the five senses what you perceive as the scenario playing out in your life. If you had no emotion attached to it, in other words, if you had no fear, it would just quickly fade away like the cloud passing right through. But the cloud seems to stick because these memories of incompleteness, see, these are snapshot judgments. They must be brought to the altar and sacrificed to facts, to the living presence of God. Fact. This is all about fact versus fiction. And when you bring a fact, you destroy fiction. So last night I had a personal dream that brought me to this place. I was at an old job in my dream, and I showed up to get a paycheck to find that there was no paycheck. And I felt the terror of being broke. The loss of freedom to be my own person, to step away from the control of some boss, some external authority, telling me what to do, how to do it, when to show up, why I'm not good enough for the next level, obviously to keep me out of his position, and more. Servitude in the capacity of a small concept of oneself. As in, I'm not quite worthy to receive all of God's treasures yet. I have to do more work. I have to be more pleasing to God. I have to be a better person. I'm too young. I don't have the divine authority to do whatever I want because God has a plan and I'm supposed to be subservient to this person outside of me telling me that they have discerned the plan for my life. And what a mind job that is, because it throws me into a frequency of terror. The cloud is standing right in the middle of the sun. This big ball of ignorance is standing right there. And it may even look like and feel like the boss of this government that you think is taking over your life, telling you to stay down. You'll only get this $1,200 that we give to you. We'll take your business out. You don't even have a business anymore. We're going to tell you who to be. We're going to tell you what you're worth. And it doesn't matter what you say or do because we're running things around here. This is ours. You're in our home now. And they just put on the big boy pants like that. All few hundred of them, through the impressions and the thought images of what they call the media, and you cave into it. Oh no, you say, I'm not having none of that. This isn't my reality. But you caved into it because you feel a loss of freedom in your heart. In other words, that graven image has come into your presence and sat before the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, your imagination.
Hello, I'm Julie with Allow Ministries on behalf of Matthew David Hurtado. Are you ready to end self-sabotage, procrastination, and distraction? Clarity, certainty, and a proven plan of action is what it takes to get anything you want in life. Training is the answer. Matthew David Hurtado's Spiritual Millionaire Workshop is the one-step solution that finally puts you in control of your destiny. What Matthew discovered about building a 7-figure business and perfect well-being when he was bedridden and bankrupt with Lyme disease is that mentorship is success without the wait. It works. At allowuniversity.com, you'll discover how to walk in victory. Learn how to prosper in every area with unstoppable daily habits and a step-by-step training to build your dream business immediately following the event, a success training for a lifetime of achievement. Walk in financial increase, living a life you love. Go to allowuniversity.com and say yes to your destiny.
Hey Matthew David, this is Gregory Lee. I appreciate all your work and your processes, and I really appreciate the training. And I wanted to let you know that I had a breakthrough this week. I was stuck at making only $1,000 a week over the last 3 months, and this past week I did $3,000. You can see the check right there. It's just fantastic, and I'm so excited and really appreciate that. And this is coming out to you, the Golden Rock Award box. It's one of my products. You can see that, and then when you open the box.
Hey Matthew, thanks for everything. You rock!
You rock, Matthew David. You rock. Keep it going. Yes.
Hello everyone, this is Vernita. I just want to give my experience at the workshop last November in Wisconsin with Matthew David Hurtado's workshop. I attended the workshop with fibromyalgia, very sick, the fog, in pain, and I believe it was the first day. He did the entrainment set, and I experienced immediate relief from fibromyalgia. 2 days later, after returning home, I continued the entrainment sets for 1 week. I'm honest, just for 1 week. And I'm looking for like side effects from fibromyalgia: pain, dizziness, muscle pain, the fog, all the crap that goes with fibromyalgia, and no symptoms. That was November, December, January, February. I am absolutely pain-free, medication-free, no medications, zero, nada, and no fog, no nothing. If you ever have the opportunity to attend one of his workshops, do so, because a miracle will happen. Attend. Vernita Hamblin. Fibromyalgia is gone completely. Bye.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to stop and we're going to correct. We're going to stop and correct. We're going to bust up the clouds of ignorance so the light can shine again as the ever-present reality in the eternal kingdom of God, or good, that is forever at hand. Because the sun never stops shining, and the cloud of ignorance is nothing more than wispy fluff. It breaks apart and it vanishes back to the nothingness from which it came. Remember, it never had power to reflect. It never had any authority to govern itself. It's simply carried along, and it goes wherever the wind blows. So I want you to feel what you're feeling in your heart, wherever there's a sense of loss of freedom right now. Wherever you don't feel that everything's going to be okay, even better than it used to be. Tune into that space. Not in your head, but in your emotions. Now remember, I talked about this with the Luxor training system. If you haven't done that, take it. It's a course at MatthewDavidHurtado.com, my website. Tune into the emotion. Just put your awareness on it. Just put pure awareness on the emotion. I'm observing it with no judgment whatsoever. It is just phenomenon. It has no meaning at all. Now rest your body like you're floating in a pool of water. Just begin relaxing as if you are completely surrendering to that emotion. This is by all means the same process that one goes through when they lose it all right before they become wildly successful. You heard me mention that earlier. What happens when they lose it all? They have to feel life. You see, they've been running through some escape, what I call these false start ghettos, running off to create instant dopamine fixes to give them the sense of everything's okay, moment by moment by moment by moment by moment by moment, until life says, nope, your ego is not ready for the next chapter. We're going to have to expand you with more divine love. That's the only thing that's expanding in all of the universe is divine love, because that's the only power. Now, as you rest your body and feel that sense of whatever felt lacking, loss of freedom, you're surrendering to it, letting it be there with no judgment, no analysis, no meaning, no past, no future, just an experience like a cloud passing by. Validate it, acknowledge it, surround it with peace by resting and letting it be. Now, in addition to that, I want you to become aware of the thought stream that is also emerging. You see, the electromagnetic field in the heart sets up a wave pattern, and that electromagnetic field draws in what we call these particles of matter, and these particles of matter form the separation illusion we perceive as life happening out there. Then through our human reasoning, our five senses, what we hear, smell, see, taste, and touch, give us a report, this snapshot judgment of what it means. And that thought stream of what it means is what I want you to tune into right now. I want you to watch the thought stream and not identify with it. You are the observing presence that is allowing the emotional experience with no judgment to be exactly as it is. You are also the observing presence that is watching the thoughts, knowing that you are not identified with those thoughts. They're just clouds passing by. Now just stay present to the present. No thought is required. We are not creating time or resistance. We are just here to observe. When you become the observer, you are in the will of God, because God is the observer. Now, God said he created all and it was good, so therefore God is also the observed. Where the pain comes is from your misappropriation of what it means. When God said it was good, you have a different opinion. Now, God being a fact and opinion being a lie, which one do you suppose is going to get its way? So if God says this is the perfect day that I have created for you to rejoice in and to experience me and to reflect my qualities, you're going to tell me that your position bears any authority to say otherwise? And you see the ego says, well, yes, but I just lost my business. You don't understand. This is real. My wife is troubled. There's illness in the family. You tell me these things. And I tell you that your superficial, overlaid perception of your point of view is not the same point of view as the other 7 billion plus people on this planet at this time. Certainly, the sun is shining somewhere, isn't it? And you say, well, it's not shining on me right now. I got bills to pay. I got mouths to feed. I got aches and pains. You don't understand. I say to you, observe that character who is telling you these stories. You're not that persona any more than you are any other character in the play. You are all characters and none seemingly at the same time. And there is no time. Because God is all in all. Stay present to the present. We are not complete yet. As long as there is still some trouble in your heart, the realm of incompleteness has not been held in the correct sight of God, or healed, as you would say. You don't have to do anything. You have to observe as the non-judgment, as the pure awareness, as the experience and the experiencer. Now just come more into the space between. Listen to the space between my words. The space between the birds chirping. Be still and know that I am God. You see, you are shining the light of presence into the dark pockets of resistance to good that are setting up the magnetics in your heart, creating the 5 sense reports and bearing the consequence of blasphemy, which is sinning before the Holy Spirit. Let me remind you that to sin before the Holy Spirit is to take a judgment, a snapshot, make a definition meaning of a circumstance, and declare that it has authority, power, rule to govern, or some other reason to exist when God never created any opposing force to his perpetual reflection, because whenever the sun shines, its reflection can always be seen off the water. All that stands in the way are the clouds of ignorance. And ignorance always presents itself for you to choose. Are you the reflection of ignorance, which bears no weight, no authority, no power? The cloud has no power to shine of its own. It does not steer itself. It is governed. It is under the control of the all, the presence itself. So if it is under the control of the presence itself, we do not push against it, we do not fight it. We cannot fight ourselves. We bring a fact into the world of fiction. Jesus the Son is a fact. The Son is your human imagination. Your human imagination reflects to you everywhere. And so ignorance has stood in front of your perfect gaze of the completion itself, which reflects only its own existence. And the cloud stares you in the face and says, "Reflect me." But you see, it has no power to reflect. It has no authority. It has nothing to bear. You contain all power. But when you take your image of the cloud and set it in your heart, you have taken other gods before me. And that also sets up what you call the graven image of your 5 sense human reports. And you say, yes, but I didn't put on the media, social media. I didn't create this whole pandemic thing. I didn't, I'm not the guy that wants to go out and take away all of our freedoms and put a tracking device, and I'm not that guy. That just comes to me all day, everywhere I go. In fact, it comes to everybody. We're all traumatized. So when Jesus came into the ship and was curious why everyone was so afraid when the waves were high and the storm was terrifying his disciples, did he not calm the waves? Jesus the Son, the living Christ, your human imagination, the only power that has the all God-given glory to reflect the light back to itself, forever shines, forever is ready and willing to meet every human need and to correct the circumstances. And you see these storms that have emerged, your disciples, these thoughts of fear that have come to you, they are terrified. These thoughts are terrified. These thoughts are thoughts that have been around for a long time, because all story is his story, and it echoes. They're not your thoughts. What makes you think you're so different? Because your circumstances appear to be different. Different than what? All you face is the fear of loss of freedom in some shape or form or disguise. The only thing that troubles you is a loss of some sense of expressing yourself in a way that reflects the qualities of God, the fruits of the Spirit, primarily love, peace, and joy. And you are to say that this cloud, which bears no authority to shine any power, any light, it contains nothing, it is wispy fluff, it is a paper dragon, as you would say. You say it has the capacity to stop the sun from shining. And that is putting other gods before the living God. When you see those reports from out there, you are to know in your heart that it is settled and done. Jesus the Messiah, the living Christ in you, has already overcome. Period. Full stop. So what do I do? You continue to shine the light and pour out love into the circumstances and speak of what is true according to what the light knows about itself. And you bring that fact into the equation, and your life transforms. The reason why most self-made millionaires become so after at least one or more bankruptcies is because they go through the death of their financial life in that bankruptcy and realize that it means mostly nothing. Therefore, they possess a freedom that most people don't. Most people don't possess the freedom of knowing that anything you gain or lose out there is never real anyway. Because the light comes from within and reflects. The waves don't bring the sun and reflect in the sky. The waves of life crashing against the surface of your life don't bear any power to reflect any more than the cloud of ignorance. They are the reflecting utility for you to confront yourself with clouds of ignorance and to bring the light of Christ back to the throne as the only power, the only presence, and the only principle of action, the only mind. In practical terms, stare at the face of what you fear the most. Don't push against it. Don't take any thought for your existence as to the fear of what's to come. Take a stance that says, I am absolutely not concerned at all, because I know wonderful things are happening. You see, the sun is still shining. The wonderful things in your life are happening now and forever. I am not concerned at all because the waves don't bear the power. The sun bears the power and reflects off the waves. The cloud has no authority to cast any light. It too is nothing. So the waves of your emotional body, as you become present of the emotional sensation that has presented itself to you as a loss of freedom, the waves, those emotional waves, are nothing. Just phenomena driven by the currents of tide that comes in and comes out, the patterns that fractal in your life. But it's not the outer circumstances that matter, it's your state of being that matters. Inside my living imagination, the Christ, I can occupy any space I choose. And that light will shine and then reflect back to me from its source. And therein lies my God-like power to choose who I am being and the state that I'm being in every moment. So when I see the report on the social media and it tells me that the end is here, the stock market is tanked, everything has gone to hell in a handbasket. This is nothing but waves crashing. The waves didn't change the factual reality of the sun. The sun is forever in its proper place. So those circumstances that crash against my 5 human senses, I feel something in my emotions. The waves are crashing. My disciples appear and tell me that I am scared. They are scared. They are fearing to perish. These troubled thoughts begin to present themselves in my consciousness. I must send the Christ to bring peace so that they may be still. And then nothing but calm blue skies will emerge, and the sun will shine and reflect again, because it alone is the power. It alone has the authority. It alone brings the prosperity for all. So what's the formula? It's position, lotial, fact. I talked about it in my last video at the end. Position, lotial, fact. 5, 6, 7. What position am I in? I am in a position, get this, it's the most important lesson of your life. I was given free will. If I was given free will, then I am free now. So as opposed to taking my will and pushing against the waves of life in a dream state of perishing, as opposed to being troubled in the ship, I identify as the Christ in my world. I identify as the Christ in my world. I identify as Christ in my world. I enter the ship bearing peace. So I bring peace to the troubled waves of emotion, just like we did a few moments ago. By sitting at rest in the position of knowledge of the Father, knowing that the light forever shines and reflects its rays once the waves are calm and once the skies are free from those clouds. So what makes us free? Our free will. to choose whom we shall serve this day. As I hold the peace in my heart, knowing the waves have no power, the waves are not the eternal, because they shift and vary. They are temporal, therefore unreal. The emotions in my heart that are troubled, although the storm may be quite terrifying to the five senses, it is nothing but a temporal dream, the illusion. It's no more of a dream than the caterpillar. The caterpillar becomes the butterfly. Well, that caterpillar with the troubled waters becomes joy. Light and fluffy, bouncing through the air like joy. Not dense and heavy and bound to the world of form. This implies the playfulness, the attitude of playfulness. Remember when I told you the story about my store that was failing and I was going through a process where all hope seemed to be gone. Nobody had an answer. The foot traffic had died. The store was losing money and the inventory was diminishing and the rent was due. To all human appearances, as the waves crashed and the disciples were scared, the thoughts that came from those around me, first thought was my accountant who told me the numbers look very bad, the store is going to fail miserably. There's no way, there's not a chance it's going to survive. The second disciple bared the thought stream that came to me and tells me that I better borrow money from friends, family, neighbors to dig my way out of this mess and to go hand out flyers and coupons and run ads, etc. The next disciple tells me that the construction is going to go all summer long, and therefore this foot traffic, as a result of business slowing down and stopping. See, my business was shut down and forced to be shut down, just like many businesses in this space that are in the collective. My business was forced to shut down, although not directly implied. It was a aggregate sum of all of the factors that were pre-existing. Just like the pre-existing factors of the economy was going to tank anyhow before Trump came in, before the pandemic, because it was built on wispy fluff. So I just happened to get into a position very similar to where the president of our country is in, where all things coming to me appear to be operating against me. So what did I do? Well, I occupied the state of the Christ. How, you ask? So the first step is I brought those troubled waters into the miracle of peace and surrender. Non-judgment is surrender. I brought those disciples' messages into a place of non-attached meaning. That was their opinion. And opinions are not facts. Opinions are lies. It's the modification of the language. I talked about it in my last video. It was the dance of the adverb, verb, adjective, adverb. It was the dance of error. Of course, there's never going to be a solution from there, so what did I do? I said, what is the fastest path to my joy in this moment? Ask and answer that question before taking any action. And you know, I remember being a little bit worried. So then I did something unique. I made it okay to fail. I made it absolutely okay to fail, which means I took my resistance out of the equation. I let whatever is to come, let it come. I took fear out of the equation as to what could happen by surrendering all of my human concern or trouble about a situation. That's what I did. Then my joy said, well, if I were already being the person who I wanted to be, that I thought I was going to be by taking all of this other action, what would I be doing with my life and my time right now? I said I'd be playing guitar and expressing that joy to myself because I want to play guitar. So what I did is I occupied the state of joy, the reflection of joy, the strength of the Lord. I occupied that in spite of the waves that were crashing, knowing that the waves crashing do not bear the power to reflect their light. They don't have light. They are not of light. These emotions crashing were not of the light. So therefore, I was not going to experience a miracle, which is common for God because that's nothing more than receiving what's already been given to you. I wasn't going to reflect the sun. As long as I stood in that cloud, I stood in the cloud of all of those opinions of what everybody else said. Their thoughts held me captive in that cloud, reflecting the void of good, the dark place, the ignorance of the Father. So I changed my approach. I stopped looking out there to the world for anything at all. I sat down to my favorite song, listened to my favorite song on my laptop, did the ABC break process. I teach that, MatthewDavidHurtado.com. You can text ABC to 608-530-6658. Several times a day I did that process. And I kept in the interim following the fastest path to my joy as the human activity to remain active and to create the feminine masculine creative cycle, allowing and divine action, allowing and inspired action. Inspired action is following your joy. Allowing is holding the consciousness through the ABC break process. You create the divine marriage, the divine process, by doing those two things simultaneously, all day, every day, regardless of the fallout. We don't give power to the waves, whether they're still or crashing today. We don't give power to the cloud that is here today and gone tomorrow, because that's serving other gods. It's quite simple. We do the ABC break process, get into the Christ, occupy the state of having, and reflect it into our experience by following the fastest path to our joy in every moment, regardless of what the 5 human senses say will be the fallout, because they are ignorant of the Father, because they are the ones bound, captive, and we must come to set them free. And what happened after that? As I was playing my guitar, my first $1 million idea plus came. Instant 6-figure income. I'm talking within the next couple days. I knew that I knew. I had just sprung up a geyser of prosperity, busted a hole right through that cloud where the sun was shining through like you wouldn't believe. And you see, that idea came to me because I busted a cloud and I sent my love into the circumstance with following the fastest path to my joy, holding my peace, which means refraining from engaging with the opinions that were nothing more than the lies that told me that I had to do anything other than follow the fastest path to my joy in this moment. Knowing that my compass within is self-contained, knows all, and is God. Wait till that hits you in the morning.
Hello, it's Amanda with Alpha Upgrade. This is my favorite ritual. Mocaine is a chocolate fat-burning energy-boosting formula that allows you to crush it. Mocaine is packed with adaptogens, minerals, and vitamins to help you combat stress, always on your A game. It has brain-boosting power ingredients like bacopa, L-triosine, and more for the ultimate dopamine rush. Hence the name, Mocaine. Mocha and the ultimate morning rush. You can use Mocaine anytime during the day, but keep in mind it is very potent. You may want to begin with a half serving. Many people can only handle this much to assess your capacity to handle Mocaine. Just mix it in with warm water. I boil my water on the stove, allow it to cool for a few minutes, then add a scoop of Mocaine. Drink it warm or iced, either way. This is the Alpha Upgrade way to kill it every single day. Start your morning with Mocaine and become the unstoppable version of you. For more information, check out the Mocaine webinar, or just get some and experience Mocaine for yourself. You'll be glad that you did.